Cool. So experimentation, today's topic is that heart of every success at an organization is in experimenting. So today we will learn about how to build a successful and scalable experimentation framework. My name is Monalisa and I'm the product marketing lead at Refyne. Before we dive in, I'll take you through the agenda for today, where we will understand what is Refyne, a brief overview of the organization and why experimentation is very crucial for us. Right? Then we will try to understand what is the power of experimentation, understanding why experimentation is a game changer for product development and its distribution. Then we will look into the building blocks of our experimentation framework, where I will try to break down the key components that will make our framework very effective. And then I'll share a personal experience where I executed 100+ experiments in less than 2 weeks with my team, where I'll deep dive into all the successful experiment blitz and how you can replicate it for your organization. And then I'll summarize the key lessons and the actionable insights. So first, stepping into what's Refyne. Refyne is an on-demand, is a B2B2C on-demand salary service provider in India. So how the model works is Refyne partners with your organization. Let's say you work with Ola or Uber. So Refyne will basically partner with Ola and Uber, the organization. And then after all the technical integrations and everything is done, the employees of Ola and Uber will be able to withdraw a portion of their salary at any time during the month. Let's say your monthly salary is 30,000. That makes your daily salary 1,000. And if today is 10th of the month, you would have accrued 10,000. So what Refyne will enable you to do is withdraw a portion of that particular 10,000 for any purpose that you want. Let's say a hospital emergency, or let's say there is a festival and some unexpected guests showed up, right? Or for even that matter, you want to pay your fuel charges, etc. Right? Now at Refyne, the mission is to empower employees by providing on-demand access to their earned salaries. They understand the importance of delivering a seamless and valuable product experience to our users. And that's why experimentation is not just a part of our process, but it's also the backbone of our product development and the distribution, which is the marketing strategy. Right? Why does experimentation matters? Because it allows us to test and validate ideas rapidly. Right? Because when you try to achieve scalability in an organization, there are a lot of roadblocks that you are going to face in terms of idea blocks, where like how things were before, how things worked when you were at a 0 to 1 or a 1 to 10 stage might not work when you're trying to scale your product or scale your organization at a 10 to 100 stage. Right? So that's where you start experimenting, because it minimizes the risk associated with launching new features and changes as well. It also enables data-driven decision-making, leading to better product iterations. It fosters a culture of innovation and continuous improvement, because then every employee is basically forced, or like they're enabled to think out of the box, right? Now coming to the framework, I would like to share the framework that I created along with my team. So if you can look at my screen, every experiment will have an experiment ID, will have a user problem, right? Let's say the user problem can be the user is unaware of the product, or the user has problems trusting the product, or the user simply does not have need of the product. Then we will go on to build what is the experiment hypothesis. Like for example, if you look at this experiment that I have written down, like user has heard of the product, but is not aware of the features and benefits, okay, and does not trust the product enough to go ahead and onboard and start using. So what the hypothesis was that if we design a special referral program for the existing users from that particular organization, then we will be able to educate the new users about our products through their colleagues, right? Because when your colleague refer you to certain products, you have an inherent trust regarding the product that is inbuilt, right? And that will help you. Let's say, for example, your friend comes and tells you, hey, you know what, I have heard about this new thing called Google Pay, where you can easily transfer money to your near and dear ones, or you can easily pay your bills, you can easily pay at any POS, like just scanning the QR code. And it's very easy, it's very seamless, it's very trustworthy. So inherently the nature of human beings is like, okay, let's go and do this because my best friend recommended it to me, right? Now the target metric is something that you have to look at, because ultimately you are trying to also see what the experiment is going to drive, right? So our agenda for this particular experiment was to increase the sign up that's happening on the application, right? Then you will go on to define what is the cohort, right? Because now you have to do this experiment not on everyone, but on a certain cohort size, because before you scale this particular experiment to the larger, wider audience and make it a norm, right? You have to first look at whether this particular cohort, how a representative sample of that particular population is reacting to this particular experiment, right? So you go on to define your cohort. In this case, we defined as employees of the organization who are launched in the last 30 days, right? Let's say the organization has signed the agreement with Refyne, and it's just been 30 days, but we are not seeing enough movement in terms of the employees of the organization onboarding onto our product, right? Then you go on to define the cohort size, and then you have an estimated impact. Now, how do you determine what is an estimated impact? For every experiment, there is some amount of baseline that you start with, right? And this is something which you can gather either from your experiences, from previous organizations, or working on similar experiments in the current organization, or you can also take examples from secondary research, right? For instance, according to my experience, any change that you do to the communication module, right, or to the positioning of a particular product, it results in about 8 to 10% improvement if you are using CRM channel as your distribution channel, right? So depending upon that, what I did is I took an estimated impact. Like, let's say if I set an experiment or share an experiment to a cohort size of 10,985 people, I will get an estimated impact of 1,648 signups, right? And then you go on and design your particular campaign, right? So what does a campaign consist of? Now, there are two parts to the campaign, which is basically the packaging, and then there is a product. What is the product that you are pitching, and how are you packaging it for this particular set of cohort, right? Let's say, for example, a person who is earning less than 20,000 rupees in a month versus a person who is earning more than 60,000 rupees in a month will have different use cases when it comes to on-demand salary, right? Here, the person might be, the person who's earning 60,000 per month, it might be a single bachelor who lives in a metro, while the person who is earning less than 20,000 might belong to a tier 2 city, right? And might be working and might have a big family to feed, right? So how am I going to position my product to different cohorts, right? Is what consists of packaging the particular product. Right now, once you have decided what feature you're going to pitch, like is it a feature or is it a core product itself, right? Then you go on to decide what narrative, right? What does a narrative mean? So narrative is basically the story that you're going to pitch to your users, right? In this particular case, I am going to share what is a or what is a experience that your referrer had. Let's say, for example, if I am the referrer who is referring my colleague to join Refyne and to start using the features of Refyne, then I, as a referrer, would have had a very good experience with Refyne, and hence I'm trying to refer that to you, right? So what I will do is I'll bank upon this good experience that the referrer had and plug in the features and benefits of the product, and then I'll send a message to you, you know. Think of it as an instance. Hey, your colleague Monalisa just used Refyne to pay off her credit card bills, right? Or to pay off her fuel charges at so and so petrol pump, right? So, and she got these benefits, like it was a seamless process. She got 20% discount, she got 20 rupees cashback. It can be anything, right? So that instantly will hit me as a new user, and I'll be like, oh, hey, you know what, Mona Lisa used, maybe I can go quickly and ask her, like, how was her experience, right? Because I have similar needs in the month, and I also need some money for emergency, and maybe, she can help me, understand the product better, or understand how do I onboard onto the product better, right? And then you decide what is the campaign copy, and this is something which will depend upon what channels you are opting for, right? For example, if someone who is not on the product, you cannot use push notifications, you cannot use in-app notifications, right? So what do you rely on? You rely on emails, you rely on SMS, you rely on WhatsApp, right? Now, given the TG, like for example, if a person who earns 60,000 has some amount of digital nativity, right, and might have access to an email, whereas a person who earns less than 20K is a security personnel, right, might not have access to emails. So SMS and WhatsApp becomes an easier method to reach out to them, right? So these are some of the nuances which has to be also kept in mind when you're designing an experiment. Like, how do you even reach to your cohort, right? So depending upon whatever channels you have picked up, you are going to prepare the campaign copy, and make sure that the campaign copy has a tone and voice which is very simple, which is very inviting, and which is very trust inciting also, right? Because this is ultimately a fintech product where someone's salary, someone's hard-earned money is involved, right? So using complex words, using complex jargons is not going to help the user understand what are you offering, right? Now, after the campaign copy has been designed, you go on to create campaign creative. Now, this particular thing, like in a general scenario, you would have seen that not a lot of campaign copies are accompanied by creative. Now, that's because I mean, when we look at the TG, right, there is something called like something aided by visual creative will basically reinforce, because the first instinct is that I am looking at a creative, right? And if you look at how an SMS is constructed versus how an email is constructed versus how a WhatsApp notification is constructed, right? SMS is completely text, right? There is no creative which you can add. Whereas in an email and WhatsApp, there is some amount of creative element that comes into picture. And in a WhatsApp, you first see the creative and then see the copy. So every ounce of your effort should go into making that creative very alluring, right? The creative should have enough information that the person goes on to read your message, or the creative should have enough information, should be so much balanced that even if the user does not read your campaign copy, they will still understand what's going on, right? So that's how you balance between copy and the creative, right? Then the next bit is campaign timing. Now, why is it important? So when we were trying to reach out the employees, think of it this way. Like usually employees from like commute between 9 to 10, right? Or 8:30 to 10, right? So that's when they engage in various digital activities, like maybe they're scrolling their Instagram, they're scrolling on LinkedIn, they're talking to someone on WhatsApp, right? So they have their mobile devices on during that particular time, and they have much quicker access to their mobile devices. But once it's 10 or 10:30, they get into a lot of meetings, they get into their work and do not check their phones till it's lunch, right? So how do we decide that when am I going to send the campaign to the user so that the user is definitely going to at least read, or it's going to make an impression on the user, right? So these were some, because my TG are employees, right? So this is how we, constructed the campaign timing also. Let's say right now I'm talking about a general shift, right? For instances where there are security personnel involved, they always work in shift. So there's a shift, which is the morning shift, then they have the afternoon shift, then they have the night shift, right? So how do I know at what part of the day are they free? So this is something which comes out of intuition, because you have observed a lot of people and how do they work, and you also take example of your own self, where you notice or you realize at what points in the time are you checking your phone. Is it during lunch? Is it during chai time? Is it after you leaving the office? Or is it before you are reaching the office, the commute time, right? Similarly, when you're observing security personnel, you try to see, like during night shift, right? There's a lot of social there's a social element which comes into picture, where 2 to 3 security guards are just gathered around a tea stall and they're just chatting about their day, right? So try to, I mean, when you observe more, right, when you talk to users more, you try to figure out that these are the times when they take a break. So that's how you design when to send the campaign, right? And then past data is also going to help you with that. So it's a bit of data, it's a bit quantitative research, it's a bit of qualitative research, it's also a bit of secondary research that you find on the internet, right? Then after you have basically designed the campaign, right now the time is to schedule. So we had used WebEngage as our CRM platform, right, where you schedule the campaign, right, and then you check how many to how many people actually the campaign was delivered, right? Because some people might have activated DND, some people might have blocked us, like blocked Refyne on WhatsApp, or maybe our email would have gotten missed on the way, right? So how many people actually got the notification or actually got the message is something which is the delivered column. And then we check what is the actual conversion that happened, how many people clicked on the particular particular campaign, and then they signed up with us, right? So that's another metric to check. Now when you look at conversion percentage, right, so it says I2 versus F2. So basically I looked at actual conversion versus the cohort size, which is 15.69%. Now, when I mentioned that in an usual scenario, right, usually referral communication or contribution of referral to all the funnel metrics is somewhere about 20 to 25%. Right. So with a smaller cohort, when we see 15 or 16% conversion, it reinforces the fact that when an employee or when a colleague suggests, right, it has more value than the brand suggesting you to come onto their platform, right? Because there is a story built, there is an inherent trust that is built, right? So then what we do is we try to iterate on not only campaign timing but also channels. We iterate on campaign copies, we iterate on campaign creatives to see what is clicking with our users, right? I'll give you one example of how we change the campaign creative. So Refyne has historically used graphic illustrations when it comes to people, showing people on the creatives, right? But in these experiments, what we did is we used real life images or real person images instead of only graphic illustrations, right? And that just boosted our conversion percentage by around 20%, right? So which means that this particular cohort that we experimented on are more likely to view or click on your campaign or engage with your campaign, right, if there is a real person image, because that again inherently increases trust factor also, right, instead of an illustration, right? Now you look log down what is the status. For instance, is it done, is the scheduling in progress, or is the copy and creative in progress, or the experiment has been discarded altogether, right? Now these are some of the decisions which are taken during a cross functional team meeting, where you sit down with product, where you sit down with engineering, where you sit down with the design team, right, where you sit down with the content digital marketing team, and try to tell them what exactly the aim and objective of the experiment is, right? Now there will be a lot of lot of discussions around whether this experiment makes sense, or maybe there is something we can do in a better way, right? Not only in terms of bettering the copy, making the copy or creative better, but also the design of the experiment itself. Maybe this cohort might not be responsive to this experiment. Maybe we should try with some other cohort, or maybe we should change the narrative altogether, right? And looking at the numbers, then we can like distill our learnings as well, right? Where we say that whether it's reinforcing, should we do more of this, or is this redirecting, where we should start tweaking our experiment itself because it did not work. Maybe if we make certain changes, if we make certain tweaks, then our experiment will be, will perform better. Or was it a sheer failure, right? The best part of conducting those 100 experiments where we learned what are our failure points, right? Because when you do not experiment, you are oblivious to the weak points in your system itself, right? And this particular experiment methodology helped us understand where all the gaps are, where do we need to do user research, where do we need to do a data analysis, right? Or where do we need to, make the necessary changes so that not everyone is running around like a headless chicken, not knowing what to do next, right? So it gave us an idea and a roadmap. It helped us build a better roadmap, right? Plan the future better, right? So for instance, according to this experiment, the learnings was that if the user does not have a basic level of awareness as to what your product does, what benefits are there, what features they can use, no matter how much CRM communication you are going to send them in the future after they have been onboarded, it's going to make little to no difference, right? They have to fully understand, like, I have been sending someone that, what, I am giving you 20% discount, I'm giving you 30 rupees cashback, first 2 transactions are free, 5 transactions are free. I don't care, because I don't know what the product is going to do for me. How is it going to make my life easier, right? So the first step is always awareness. The first step is always building trust with the product, and then going on to, reinforce the same with communication, right? For example, in this case, we understood that people who have a lot of awareness of about what Refyne does and how it can help them solve their necessities, what we did is we tried to understand where all they using this, using our product, right? So what we did, we got hands on their bank statement, right? And then we saw that, okay, these are the Refyne transactions that they have done. And then I immediately checked what are the next 5 transactions that they have done, so that I know that where are they going to use Refyne, right? We tried collecting this data on the application also, but then this is something which is, not a lot of people voluntarily give this information out, right? So you would have seen how GPay has, they have prompts when you scan a QR code, or when you're paying a money, they have prompts like, what is this amount going to be used for? Are you going to pay it at a grocery store, or are you going to pay to a taxi, something of that sort, right? So we built a feature like that, but then we were not getting enough data to draw a conclusion, right? But the bank statements not only gave us data on where the users are, where the users are paying after they have transacted on Refyne, it also told us that at what time of the month, what is the use cases, right? For instance, at the start of the month, it might be rent, utilities, right? The middle of the month, it's usually fuel charges, it's usually groceries fill up, right? At the end of the month, it's bill payments, right? EMI payments. So these are some of the things we tried understanding. So once awareness is built, awareness is set, now that my user knows what the product is, I can use these insights that I have obtained from their user behavior to nudge them from time to time during the month, right? So that instead of going anywhere else for their credit needs, these users are going to come to Refyne only. right? So that's why I spoke about how CRM communication will make no difference if awareness is not there, right? Even if I send them, hey, you can use Refyne to pay your credit card bills, they'll be like, why do I care? Why can't I go to just some other bank or some other source of credit and get my money from there, which I have been using for so long, right? So yeah, that's in I mean, like, summarizing the entire bit. Designing of an experiment is based on these parameters that are shown on the screen. And once the designing has been done, you have to get a buy-in from all your stakeholders, right? You have to create that excitement, you have to create that urgency, that sense of need on the floor with your peers, with your seniors, with your team members, right? That these are the set of experiments that we are going to that we are proposing, right, is going to serve these objectives. Is everyone aligned, right? And after the alignment is done, then you go into the execution of this particular experiment, right? You set clear timelines with all the teams, and after that, once the experiment has been executed, then you deliberate on what the metrics were, or what is something which was unknown before and you discovered during the experiment, right? What's your final verdict and how do you scale it up? Yeah. So these are some of the things that like I and my team did at Refyne. And in short, this is how the growth experiment framework looks like.